Hi guys, John Florez again, and here we go with part 2 of my kind of music and life retrospective. I hope you enjoyed part 1, and now here's what followed to recap once I came back to Phoenix and thought I had retired. And should have retired, because I wasn't reading the signs. I had yet to become a believer in, let's just say, a higher power. In God directing my life instead of me. That enlightenment, so to speak, hadn't happened yet in my life. Of course, the events had happened, but I just didn't know why, nor did I care. I was just kind of trudging right along. So I came back to Phoenix, and Pat McMahon, a lifelong friend who, when he was program director of KRIZ radio in Phoenix, broke Grazing in the Grass when the record was essentially dead after 5 months of no airplay in the United States. Very grateful to Pat. I don't think I would have had a career without him. But when I came back to lick my wounds and decide what was next after my LA years, Pat called and said that there was an investor. In industry terms, that means outside money. Ooh, stay away from outside money. Anyway, this investor lived in this fancy home on the top of Camelback Mountain, and he had an artist that he loved that had her band playing at Mountain Shadows, a resort in Paradise Valley, Arizona. And it was Robin Powell and Rocky Road. And so the investor asked me to produce a singles date on Robin Powell. So I did, and I used my LA musicians, and Stephen Boyd, my friend, arranged the track. And it was kind of my first foray into pop country. And I'll just give you a moment of that. Here you go. Take a listen. Okay, that said, it was released on a private label. It never got any exposure. I don't think it went to the record stores. I know it got no radio exposure. And everything just kind of died, but I got a paycheck. So, am I changing my life yet? No. The first thing I'm offered when I come back home is more record production. And not pop soul record production, but pop country. What? So the next thing that happened is my best friend, Darnielle Pershing. Love him. Hello, Darnielle. Rest in peace. I hope you're watching this. He died of a heart attack at age 37 in his office as Dean of Commercial Music at University of Southern California, USC. He died so young. Gosh, he was 37 and my best friend, and boy did I miss him. But I was here in Arizona and had just wrapped up producing Robin Powell when I got a call from his partner, Andy Gatos, who said, would you come over and take his place, Darnielle's place, in a new production company that we're forming? Okay, I'm not going to go back through that chapter because I've described it before, but what I ended up producing was a Linda Seals singles date, a Jan Gray singles date, she was pop country, and my new friend, Bobby Brooks, 1980. Oh my goodness. Well, this position required my going back to LA to live. And I was newly married, Mary Mather, just the most delightful woman you will ever meet. And she and her teenage daughters and I moved to LA. I cut those records. Nothing happened. Came back to Phoenix again and said, oh my goodness, now what am I going to do? So it's 1984, and I had been paying the bills for I don't know how many years as a record producer, and I just didn't know where to go from there. And then a thought occurs to me, which was rather, I don't know, interesting, and that was, well, let's just take Bobby Brooks and try some more, which we did for 2 more years with no success. And I was paid with, wait for it, outside money again, and my investors were not very happy that the Bobby Brooks project went nowhere. We got signed by Permian Records, but they didn't promote. The only other artist they had at the time was Lynn Anderson, who was a popular country singer, and then Bobby Brooks, but nothing happened. Okay, so I'm in Nashville having done Bobby's dates, and I'm at the Nashville Airport bookstore, and there's a $9.99 book that said, Find Your Perfect Career. Oh, okay. Take this quiz, and we'll tell you what you should do next. That's the bottom line. So I bought the $10 book, took the quiz on the airplane flight back to LA, and by the time I got there, I totaled up my score, and it said, computers. I thought, oh man, you get what you pay for. I don't know the first thing about computers. Well, now this is my 40 years plus, as you see this video, in dealing with computer-related technology, training, multimedia design, educational software, customer support, you name it. I was kind of a maverick. I just went wherever I was directed, and stop right there. I had just discovered Alcoholics Anonymous, AA. And, the thought goes back to my friend Joe Scandori, who was Don Rickles' manager. When I came back to visit in LA, he said, "You still drinking, John?" And I thought, what do you mean? Well, of course I'm drinking. Okay, let's get this out of the way. I was not a get drunk drinker. I was a daily drinker who would drink a little bit each day just to get a tiny bit of a buzz. I was only drunk maybe 5 to 7 times in my entire life, and that includes fraternity, drinking parties, all of that. As I told you, I was a Valium addict. I liked a little bit of the edge taken off, so that's how I drank. But when Joe Scandori said he is still drinking, John, it planted a seed. And my best friend, Ed Ravenscroft, owner of Chaton Studios with his wife, Marie Ravenscroft, also my best friend, co-best friends. Ed went into alcohol recovery in Sedona, and when he came back, he said, "John, will you just come to a meeting with me? I'm back in Phoenix, and I'm just down from Sedona, and I'd just like a friend with me at my first meeting." Well, that was all it took for me. I started hearing what they were talking about, and this higher power stuff, which a lot of people resist when they go into AA. They hear that and they say, whoa, what does that have to do with drinking? Well, no, the higher power stuff resonated with, oh my God, I don't have any belief system spiritually whatsoever. And if I'm willing to turn my life and affairs over to a power greater than myself, that makes a lot of sense, because I think the power greater than myself has been directing the whole thing anyway, but I keep getting in the way with my self-will. I keep telling God where I want to go instead of show me. So the light bulb goes off while I'm briefly in LA having mixed another Bobby Brooks session, and there's an ad in the LA Times saying, computer sales representative. Computerland, Glendale, California. Computerland was a big computer chain back in the day. And so I thought, well, why not? I'll learn on the job because I don't know anything. And my first day at Computerland on the job, one of my peers who was to train me said, "John, this is the DOS prompt." And I said, the what? 3 or 4 years later, I'd be teaching DOS to banks and other institutions and whatever for my support gigs. So I'm working at Glendale Computerland, and my boss pulls me aside, the owner of the store, and he said, your hardware sales are okay. They're not outstanding, but they're okay. But you seem to have found a little niche. Or is that niche? I don't know. Helping mom and pops and families get productive through software that you demonstrate for them and train them. You show them how to work it, and it seems like you have a gift. And I thought, well, man, there's a sign. So the light bulb goes off, and when I returned to Arizona, one of the first things I did was go to Software City, where Stephen L. Nevins owned the major software outlet here in town, retail outlet, Software City. And I said, can I do that for you? You sell software, why don't you send me out? I'll demo it for your customers, and if they like it, they'll buy it, and they'll ask me to train them on it. So that ended up being my living for quite a while. And then I went on my various steps of the 40-year career in computers, which has everything to do with, I don't know, on the road, training corporate and government technicians how to support Windows operating systems. I was a healthcare trainer, I was a multimedia author, And for the past 12 years, I've been the computer support guy out on the road all across Arizona, supporting water and wastewater test takers if their computers went down while they tested. 12 years, same company. Love it. And it's a job that when I got called for it, just like rock the boat, I said, nah, this doesn't interest me. And here I am 12 years later because I surrendered, let go, and took the direction that God gave me. Okay, I'm going to wrap this chapter up with a thought that occurred to me before I started filming this today. And that is, I want to share with you a pattern. When I arrived in the music business, and Joe Reisman, my boss at RCA, said, son, what kind of music do you want to make? And I said, well, something like The Fifth Dimension, my favorite group. And then what followed was 7 years of doing precisely that. Yeah, I had a couple of white artists that were given me, but I was a pop soul producer, and it was an area where I excelled. I don't care who the arranger was, and in a previous clip I've showed you that. I don't think with all those arrangers I used you can tell the difference between any of them because they still all sound like John Florez pop soul productions. Okay, so I was earning a wage doing that. And then when I got back to Arizona after the formal record career had ended and the outside money projects were offered, all of a sudden I was accepting jobs for money where I could do a good production for them, but basically it wasn't what I was best at. Okay, and you're going to see that I wasn't offered pop black artists. I was offered whatever was available at the moment. A couple of them just favors for friends. I will tell you one little anecdote before I show you those couple of excerpts of the outside money work. But I did have one problem child outside money project, and that was a Las Vegas star. He co-starred at the Lido. That was a big show in Las Vegas, and his name's Carl Wallace. And Carl had cut a track prior to meeting me called Let Go of Her that I just loved, but I thought it needed a new vocal and Bergen White and his other male background singers in Nashville to really take it home. And then we'd remix it with my dear deceased friend Ron Reynolds, the Hall of Fame country engineer. Went back to Nashville, did all of those steps, but something interesting occurred. I asked Carl to speak the verses, narrate the verses, and then on the big choruses he'd break into his gorgeous voice. Why did I do that? I didn't want the verses spoken, but Carl's voice in the lower register before it hit the choruses sounded very Las Vegas-y, and he couldn't change that. So I said, Carl, here's what we're going to do. You're going to speak the verses, sing the choruses. Then I'm going to put you with Terry Lays, and Terry Lays was a top woman radio promotion person out of Nashville, and I had an in with her. So once we mixed the project, I sent it to her and I said, do you want to meet with this guy? And she said, oh, John, yeah, I'd love to meet with him. And Carl's a very handsome, charismatic co-star of the Lido, for goodness sake. So she meets with him, and she said, yeah, Carl, I would really like to help you, but who in the world asked you to speak those verses? Well, flashback in time, I said, Carl, I'm going to have you speak those verses, and whoever believes in you will say, who asked you to do that, to speak those verses? And he'll say, John Florez, and they'll say, he's a moron. Fine. Make me the villain. Then have them take you back in and have them try to get those verses sung this time with you. Okay? But you've gotten in the door showing your best, which is those choruses in your lovely full voice. Carl Wallace calls me after his appointment with Terry Lays and says, basically, I've had it with you, John. You had me speak those verses. And I said, but what did Terry Lays think of you? And he said, well, she wants to work with me. And I said, Carl, that was the goal. That's what I told you about in the first place. But then he said, and John, I want nothing to do with you anymore. And hung up, and that's the last time I heard from him. Beware of outside money projects, and don't think because you're not in LA with the celebrities that egos and irrational thinking don't exist on outside money projects. They do. Okay, here are a couple of examples of things that I did for outside money, just real quick hits at them to show you they're not pop soul, they're not where my heart was, they were done for money, but they sound okay. Okay, that's going to wrap it up again. I assume there'll be a part 3. I don't have a clue what I'm going to say, but I'm enjoying doing this. So, as always, I appreciate you watching. Thanks for subscribing. If you're my subscribers, I cherish you. My goodness, who wants to hear an old man talk? But I'm very grateful. So, as always, take care. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.